I bet you're thinking to yourself, is this Bears team for real? Are they imposters? Are they who we think they are? Is the more important question, I guess you're thinking to yourself now. But that is what we're going to find out today. And going forward, Ben Johnson is the new head coach. We got a lot to talk about. So let's get into this roster. Going to be an exciting season for the Bears fans. This team could legit be a contending team right away. And you look at this offensive line, reworked. Ben Johnson, first priority. Let's take care of this offensive line. And I think that this group looks way better. And barring some major injuries and stuff like that, they should be able to protect Caleb Williams. You look at this interior, that it looks very good. Now, there are some questions going forward in the future because you're paying 3 interior offensive linemen above $10 million. So there is a price tag to that, but they have the money to do so. So you have to do it, and it's a priority for this football team, and it makes a lot of sense. Joe Thuney is on a 1-year deal. Now, they could re-sign him and could keep bringing him back on 1-year deals or something like that. But no matter what, I think they still need to invest in some depth here, and they are one injury away from potentially being in a little bit of trouble in this category. You got Ryan Bates, who will end up being more likely the swing man. He can play center, play guard. So he needs a quality swing man. So I feel good about that. They've got 4 solid offensive linemen on that interior. But as I was saying, they still could invest in the future. I mean, Bill Murray, or Doug Kramer can also be solid depth for them. On that line, Jordan McFadden was picked up as well. So that is something to note. I don't think it's an early need in this draft, but it is definitely something if you want to continue to reinforce the offensive line. Absolutely. Always a priority here, and throw another pick at it. The tackle position is very much an interesting scenario because Braxton Jones, I have been a Braxton Jones truther. I've been a believer in him. I watched a lot of film on him. I really have. He's one of the tackles I would say I've watched more than any other tackle in the NFL over these past couple of years. Very much had my eye out on him. I like him. I think that he just needs to get stronger. That's been his biggest thing. But in terms of his technique and his hand technique over on general, like the nuance has gotten so much better. If you look at him coming out of college to where he is now, and even from his rookie season from the Bears, he is such a better football player. And I see a guy that if he can get 10 more pounds of muscle mass, he can be truly a Pro Bowl tackle. Now, the big question for him going into this season is that ankle injury that will be something to take note of. Will he be ready to go for the season beginning? And they've already talked that he may be on the PUP list, even possibly going into training camp. So that is where I would lean towards bringing in a veteran if you can. They still have like to spend. So getting a guy to come in here just in case to compete early on and having that backup veteran presence, I would be looking to do. Now, don't get me wrong. If Will's on the board, Armin Embu are available at pick 10, I would be going that route. I think that's still very much in the card. I think both of those guys will be off the board by pick 10, but it is definitely something that I would say they're in a position to go BPA, and this offensive line still being a priority. I would very much consider that. You go Darnell Wright, obviously, on the other side, so you're in good position there. It's just my main thing is the health of Braxton Jones going into a contract year. I see him, though, as a guy that I would pay right now. I think you get a serious discount if you pay him currently rather than waiting, because I could see him having a breakout campaign. Another thing worth noting is Karan Amigaji. While he looked rough this season, he was a guy that I realistically needed a full season or 2 seasons to really develop and grow. He's another guy that needs to get stronger. So that's really why I wasn't like overly about that. We need to just see him hit the weight room and get much stronger, and he could be a good swing tackle. He certainly has the athleticism to do so. Let's go on to the wide receiver and in the tight end room. And while they've got their core guys, DJ Moore, Romo Dunze, a lot of talent right there, if they do have injuries to one of those guys, it could be a big problem, right? Where's the depth besides that? I mean, always had a good season for the Commanders, and you got Devin Duvernay compete on special teams. Tyler Scott, maybe he could take another step up this season. Cole Kmet's a solid tight end. He is upgrade. I think you could find another option in this draft class, especially to compete with Cole Kmet. I certainly think that that's on the table for them. No matter what, like this was not bad, but could it be upgraded? Absolutely. Like in the running back room, there are a lot of guys that are going to be available. We're going to talk about this. It's like Ashton Genty, Tyler Warren. I totally could see Ben Johnson falling in love with one of those guys. And more than likely, if one of those dudes, besides Will Campbell, Armin Embu, are available, if both of those guys are gone and you're staring at the board with either Ashton Genty or Tyler Warren, I think one of those guys will end up being the pick. That's just my opinion on it. And totally could use one more weapon in this offense. They've got 2 solidified starters, studs, Roma Dunze, DJ Moore. Who's going to be that third consistent target? Cole Kmet is a guy that I still think that they can keep, but he's going into a situation. He's the only tight end under contract. They also could move on from him if they so chose to do that and save $8 million next season. He's only got $3 million in cap space that they couldn't get out of. So that's something to consider as well. Durham Smythe, That's one another reason too. They could use a tight end in this room in general, like backup wise. So no, I think tight end is definitely a possibility for this team early in the draft slash wide receiver. So getting one more weapon in this offense is going to be something I look at. And that leads us into the running back room as well. And same thing as I was mentioning earlier. If Ashton Genty's on the board at 10, I think this is his floor. I just don't see a range where Ashton Genty makes it past 10 really for the Bears or in Tyler Warren. Unless they're higher on Tyler Warren than Ashton Genty, that's going to be something too. If like both of those are available at that at pick 10, then that would be a really interesting discussion. I would probably choose Genty if it were me, but it would be a tough one. Like both of those really, really talented players. Ben Johnson and his scheme to be creative with both of those guys would be really, really fun. This running back room, though, needs to be upgraded. And yes, they could get by with DeAndre Swift and Roshan Johnson heading into next season. At the same time, like I would like to lean on the run game a little more. Now, a better offensive line is going to help out DeAndre Swift and Roshan Johnson. So I have no doubts about that. However, like this room, Swift, okay runner, isn't I could really improve in this category. Roshan Johnson really hasn't shown a whole ton to me, maybe more than like just a goal. That's really what I see him as a third rotational guy. I just don't know. That's my opinion on it. And I really do think this is an area that they could look at upgrading in the draft, especially in a very good running back draft class. And then we go into the quarterback position. It's not a need. I mean, could they look at a long-term backup? Absolutely. But for me personally, I would just say you bring in a veteran, a backup. I don't think they need to draft another young quarterback to bring any sort of controversy. Just keep bringing in, guys like or whatever down the line. And then we go on to the defense side of the ball here. And you look at this defensive line. And I do think the defensive line still needs to add some more talent into here. You need that fourth guy, that third, fourth guy that's going to compete with Austin Booker for more rotation, etc. And Montez Sweat is a guy that is being paid heavily, and next season, a lot of his guaranteed money is off the books. So I'm not saying you have to cut Montez Sweat. He's a good football player. But if the production doesn't match that production, then they could end up moving on or trading him next season. And it's definitely in the cards. So that's why I say an edge rusher could be in the first round too, especially with this edge class. Now, I also like the edge rushers on day 2, and I think they could find a really good player that could be a developmental guy early on and play limited snaps, like 100 to 300 snaps, even more possibly in a rotation, and then maybe be a starter next year, depending on how things go. Overall, I do think edge is a big priority for this team, and I would say by round 3, I would want to have at least one edge rusher drafted at that point. Also, I got to mention Deo Dengbo coming over from the Indianapolis Colts on a nice, solid contract. It's not like a super expensive deal. It's a sizable contract that it may be similar vein to like a Dorrance Armstrong. Now that he's the full-time starter, I think he could have a breakout campaign, and I watched him at the Colts. I think he certainly has the ability to be a great starter for this football team. So I think he definitely is locked in now for the next couple of years. I feel good about that. And he's past that injury as well. And he's just gotten better and better. And then we go on to the defensive interior here. Grady Jarrett gets a nice 3-year contract for the Bears. So he's locked in as a starter. And he's still got juice in the tank. You got Gervin Dexter next to him. Andrew Billings getting back healthy is going to be big for this team in his run defense. I mean, you saw when on the field compared to when he's not on the football field, the run defense is a different game. Now, he is going to a contract year, and that's why I think they could add a developmental one tech in here. Whether Jonathan Ford can be that guy of the future, who knows? But I do think that that's something that they could look to draft. I don't think it's an early need, but I do think it's something that could be a sneaky need that they look at drafting, depending on who's available on the board, right? If somebody falls in the second round and you can't pass up on, right, I'm taking those guys 100%. You can always improve this defense line and add another youthful player in with Gervon Dexter. So we're going to look at defensive line, and I also think linebacker is more of a need than people give it credit for here. You got TJ Edwards going into a contract year, and both of these guys are good football players. I think Edmonds is just overpaid. That's really what it comes down to. Good linebacker? Is he a great linebacker? Is he somebody I'm paying $17 million to next season? No, like that's just something that I think is a lie. And that's why in 2026, I think he's a cap cut. And I want to make sure we're investing because TJ Edwards may not be back either. You got Omeno, who's a good, solid special teamer, could end up being a nice backup for them. And you lose Jack Sanborn, so that's something to consider. He's now at the Cowboys, I believe. So, their depth right now very much in question, and something that I want to be addressing, looking to the future. This is like a round 3 type of draft capital, investing in the future, thinking ahead movement. Then we go on to the cornerback room, and this is not a huge need for me. Once again, the Bears are in a position where you're drafting best player available. If somebody falls to you, I'm not questioning that aspect. But is this a huge need going into the draft? No. You've got a really good group of corners. Jalen Johnson's a beast. You got Tyreek Stevenson, who's, a little bit borderline, but he can get beat. But he is a very flank coverage corner. Terrell Smith is the guy that I think is going to compete with him and give him some push there in training camp. And don't be surprised if he ends up winning the job at some point. Like, he's a good football. And that's why I feel good. They've got him as their backup cornerback on the outside. And Kyler Gordon's a really good slot corner. He had a bit of a breakout. In my opinion, this season was very much on track to be one of the better slot corners in the NFL, and certainly deserves to get some paid money out there. And I imagine that Poole's going to end up paying Kyler Gordon. They've already had discussions, and hopefully they do pay him because he's a very good player. Josh Blackwell, some nice depth. You got Nick McLeod in there as well. So their depth is good at the slot position. They're in a very good position there. I think Tyler Gordon's going to get an extension. And then finishing up with the safety position, this is something that I know a lot of Bears fans are going to be looking at as an area that they need to be looking at in the draft. Now, here's my stance on this. I understand that, but at the same time, I think this year they're in a very good spot safety wise. Now, nobody is under contract going into 2026. It can definitely look concerning in that regard. But at the same time, I'm not actually overly concerned about this. It's something we need to invest in, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, they also have a lot of flexibility. And Jaquan Brisker said he's as healthy as he's ever been. He feels good. The concussion thing, it's absolutely concerning. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's something I'm with best for him personally. I don't want him to, cause long term. I also feel like that he's a very good football player. And if he says he's really feeling good and ready to go, and maybe he's going to take extra precautions next year, double up that helmet, make sure you're yourself out. He's a very good football player, and I'm looking to extend him if he shows that ability, the availability this season. And he's a young player as well. So keep an eye on those things. It allows for them to get another season. Elijah Hicks has showed that he can step up and play if you have injuries. So I feel confident they've got good depth. Jonathan Owens as well is more than special teamer. Kevin Byers is a good safety. So that's why I'm saying, like, it's not a need year. They've got guys, and then if a Brisker works out, you give him an extension, you go into next season. If you lose Byard, you can sign one other guy, and then you can maybe bring back Elijah Hicks on the cheap or whatever, some depth. And then you go into the draft and say, okay, now this is more of a day two need. We got one locked in starter and we got some good veteran presence. Now we can go ahead and draft that safety of the future. Just right now, if you're drafting and wasting a second, third round pick, I don't want to call it wasting, but at the same time, it's like I could use the players right now and defensive line rotations and defensive line possibly, whatever, right? Another weapon. Like, those are areas that I have bigger needs on comparative to the safety. So hopefully I explained that well enough, but that's really my view on this. I would not hate them drafting a safety. Absolutely not. But at the same time, I just feel like it's probably more of a day three priority than a day two need at the moment. Surprise! It's Tyler Warren. It's draft time, though. And you're like, wait a minute. I'm not seeing this one bit. What are you talking about? Well, let me explain here. I better explain. This better be good, or else I'm going to get roasted. Might get roasted anyway. And that's okay, man. As long as it's a good, nice, solid roast, be 450 degrees for but it's Tyler Warren, and I think Tyler Warren's such a fascinating prospect in so many regards because of what he brings to the table as a player. He just has the versatility, and Ben Johnson's probably licking his chops right now, saying to himself, I can use this guy in so many different assets of the football field. Like, I can play this guy everywhere. And Tyler Warren is literally a Swiss Army knife. What he does as a tight end, of course, is exceptional. His body control, his catching ability, and he's a subtle. I wouldn't call him like the most nuanced. He's not as separator as Colston Loveland. He's not as good of an athlete as Colston Loveland. But you talk about the physicality to win. That's going to succeed at the next level. Like, he has that ability. He can be a really good blocker as well. Continue to improve his technique there. There's no doubt in my mind. He's just got that all around skill set that you look for. Use him as a running back. Use him in wildcat stuff. Use him as a quarterback, a gadget guy. He's more than just a tight end. He is going to be a masterclass. What had over 1,200 yards this season at Penn State. He was their offense. Drew Aller's like, I can't throw to receiver. Where's Tyler Warren? Oh, there he is. He's wide open, or he's open. Just throw it to him. He'll catch it. He is such an immense weapon. And that's why I think he can be wide receiver 3 for this team, tight end 2 early on, and end up being their long-term tight end and just be a playmaker. And on to our second round selection. I'm going Landon Jackson, the edge rusher from Arkansas, the Razorbacks. He's going to be a Razorback for the Bears now, and going to be somebody. Ooh, that's interesting. You got the Bears, you got the Razorback. Ooh, that's a clash of titans right there. But anyway, with Landon Jackson, he's a guy that could be a great third, fourth edge rusher early on. Can develop into a starter for this football team. The size, the length, the athleticism, it's all there for him. He just needs to continue to get a little stronger, I think, with his leg drive and work on his leverage. He plays very high, and that can show up in the run game at times. Like, he makes plays in the run game. Don't get me wrong. Like, he is because he's got power. He's got upper body strength. You can tell this guy hits the gym. Yes, he's not the most laterally twitched up guy. Don't expect him to bend the edge like anything crazy, okay? He's just not that guy. He's more of a linear athlete, but he certainly can make plays as a pass rusher, as a run defender. He led the Arkansas Razorbacks 2 years in a row. So he made history for them, leading them in sacks and tackles for loss. And somebody that I absolutely feel is going to be a locker room guy as well. So Landon Jackson, just going to be an Iron Man for this football team as a backup edge rusher early on and more development. And also play up and down that defensive line as well. And then we go on to the Ohio State University. Travion Henderson shot out of a cannon. Dude is going to be the Tremere Gibbs of this running back room for Ben Johnson in the offense. Henderson's got a shot out of a cannon explosiveness. Like, he just accelerates. That's what I love about Henderson, his receiving ability, his pass protection. Can't give him enough credit. And that's one thing. Like, when you're talking about a running back or just players in general, like wide receivers, tight ends, I want to see your effort as a run blocker. That to me is a defining trait. Henderson, he is looking to pulverize dudes when he comes their way. Like, he is, it may not always be perfect with Anderson, but he is looking to just terrorize dudes as a blocker, and I love that about him. With his athleticism, sure, is his vision needs to be improved upon, absolutely, but as a guy that can be a good 1-2 punch with DeAndre Swift, absolutely sign me up for that. On to round number 3. It's Danny Studsman. Oh, I love that name. And it's a linebacker, Studsman. Oh, yeah, he's going to be developmental third linebacker. Can be Jack Campbell for this football team, maybe. Like, he has some coverage. Okay, he's going to need time in that regard. He just has not developed in that regard. His zone feel is not great. Let's just be real. He really struggles with things behind him. But what he is great at is as a run defender. He is so good with things in front of him, seeing, reacting. He's got the flow athleticism. He can go sideline to sideline. He has the size, take on ability. Those things are there with Studsman. He is going to be a stud in regards to stopping the run and being that workhorse there, Mike linebacker of the future. Then we go on to Joe Huber from Wisconsin. Yes, the Cheeseheads. You're going to go get an offensive lineman who played everywhere really throughout his time at offense. Voice crack. Ooh, we got I'm so draft, ready to go. But Joe Huber is going to be a nice guy that can play left, right guard. He can play a little right tackle. I think he's a guard at the next level. However, with him, he's just a guy that I think has the size, strength profile, good athlete, needs to work on his leverage. He can lose balance. That's kind of a prototypical thing you can say of Wisconsin offensive linemen, but it stands true. It's kind of maybe the way they develop them, but he definitely has traits you look for in a guy that can continue to improve and get better and be a good developmental offensive lineman that has a lot of versatility across that offensive line. I always like to see that too. Then on to our first 7th round pick. I'm going with Zion Childress. And if you watch Kentucky film, you know Childress, the guy that makes plays everywhere around the football field. As a run defender, he is just finding ways to make plays. When in doubt, look for number 11 on that Kentucky defense. He is a wildcat because of how explosive he is around the football and stuff. Coverage-wise is a different story. I don't really see him make a whole ton of plays. I think he's got like 1 interception in his career. So that is definitely a concern for me when it comes to Childress. But as a developmental safety, is another player, and nothing else, a special team guru, absolutely. A 2-time team captain for Kentucky. I love that as well. So he's going to bring some of that grit and that locker room presence. And then last pick of the draft, Elijah Simmons, the Tennessee forgotten defensive lineman. Everyone talks about James Pierce Jr., Omar Nunn, for good reasons. Those guys are good football players. But what about Elijah Simmons, interior defense lineman who's just really their space eater, run defender, exceptional. He's got that 5, that turst, which kind of sometimes he's too much to deal with for guards. He's just like, boom, he pops up into the backfield. He is an explosive run defender type, and he's got that big, wide frame. And I love that here as a developmental Andrew Billings replacement, stout run defender. Not much of a pass rusher, okay? He's just not going to move a whole ton of guys. He doesn't have a ton of counters. Yeah, I mean, offensive lineman that he's not whole to really counter guys. He's an early down run defender, Andrew Billings type of replacement for this football team and help them out in the run game. That's really my vision for this. Well, that's going to do it for the draft. Certainly let me know what you think, agree or disagree. What would you do differently? And go through so many simulations and stuff. At the end of the day, you have no idea who's really going to be available at number 10. You can make guesses and stuff like that. Certainly, if Will Campbell falls, which I think is very unlikely, that would be the pick for sure. I think you go ahead and select that tackle and go from there and you work that out no matter what. But at the end of the day, I like Braxton Jones. I believe you should lock him up, bring in a veteran if you have injuries and Braxton Jones isn't ready to go by training camp. So that's really where I'm at right now. And you kind of go that route and say to yourself, okay, well, who's on the board? I think Ashton Genty or Tyler Warren, I think one of those guys will be available at 10. So in terms of who do I go with? Yeah, I mean, you guys see who they end up going with, but I think Tyler Warren's a fantastic pick. I really do, and he can be this wide receiver number 3 for this football team. Obviously, Omalaz Zaccheaus can play in like 11 personnel, and you can have Tyler Warren play, that starting tight end. Komet, you can shift around. You can have Tyler Warren play running back if you want. You can get creative, especially early on in his rookie campaign. He's just such a good football player. He's a top 10 player in this draft class. He's an absolute home run pick, in my opinion, for Ben Johnson and whatnot. So that's where I'm at right now. And then we also did get a running back in Travion Henderson. So you get that 1-2 punch with DeAndre Swift. Henderson's going to be that Jameer Gibbs in this offense. The bing, 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 the explosiveness. And we got backup quarterback Tyler Warren as well. So it's a win-win, right? You get a little everything. And all joking aside, it is what it is. He's not going to be really the backup quarterback, but it is. And then all Joe Huber. Maybe you could have gone a little early. We could have got early on the backup line there, and that could be one question. But that's kind of where the way the board fell and what I wanted to do, and add some other areas I wanted to address on this roster. And you look at the defense side of the ball, right? There's other things on the defense I want to continue addressing. This defensive line, like any other edge rusher, absolutely a priority. That's something I could see them doing in the first round as well. Now, I think it's probably more of a second, third round type of need, especially on the value on day 2. I think that makes a lot of sense for them to go get a Landon Jackson type. There's other guys out, Jack Sawyer, JT Tuamola, Prince Umamiel, and you go down the board. Maybe a Donovan Ezra Faku falls. That would be insane. And I would not, I don't, he should not fly right now. I have him like as a top 15 player. But Landon Jackson here, I think, is a fantastic pick, as some depth and long term could be this team starter for them. And then Elijah Simmons can be a developmental Andrew Billings type of player, another run defender that can help out on early downs. And then we go on to linebacker, which was my other need. I prioritize this over safety, which some people will do, some people won't. I think that it's a bigger need, and the depth right now is very, very thin. And I want to make sure we have somebody for the future. I think Danny Stutzman could be the Jack Campbell for this defense and that early down run defender type, and really go a long way in that regard. Very good at that. Needs to develop in the coverage skills for sure, but definitely gives him a good Mike linebacker of the future. And then finally, we get a safety, Zion Childress, as a special teamer early on for them. It can develop. He's really good at making some plays around the football. And like I said, I think he can just add some more depth and give you somebody that is under contract at the safety room for them. We didn't do anything at cornerback. Once again, I think that they're in a very good position. You got Terrell Smith, who'll be competing with Tariq. Your 2 solidified starters with Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon. I think Gordon's going to get an extension. Let me know what you think, Bears fans. I hope you guys have a good day. I'll talk to you later.